Hey guys, welcome back to another video with the High Mountain Homestead. I am PJ and I am excited to talk with you today about what it's like to have a real full-time job and be a homesteader. So this video is for anyone who has the dream of homesteading or is interested in homesteading but doesn't necessarily want to quit their 9-to-5 job or can't quit their 9-to-5 job. I'm going to talk about what makes that hard and how I've been able to get around that. If that sounds up your alley, keep watching the video. Okay, homesteading is an awesome prospect. It is such a cool goal to have. It is certainly a goal that my wife and I have had pretty much before we were married. I remember even when we were dating, we talked about this kind of lifestyle. And 8 years later, we're finally doing the homestead thing. But our goal was never to do this full time. And we live in I'm in Utah right now, and so Utah is developing very quickly in a lot of parts, but there's also these pockets of residential agriculture. So I sit on 1.25 acres. You can see my neighbor's lot right over there, pretty much identical. But then right outside my pasture, we've got these sick custom homes. And so it's kind of funny. I'm in just this little pocket of suburbia, but I get to have this homestead. So it's a very cool prospect because I have 1.25 acres, but I still work a full-time job. Okay, now before I got into the homesteading thing, I thought it was going to be pretty easy. I just thought, yeah, maybe a little bit of time. You got to put food out for the animals once a day. You got to water your plants, and that's it. And I was so wrong. It's unbelievable how stupid that sounded. And that was only 8 or 9 months ago that we started doing this. Okay, let me talk about some of the things that take up a lot of my time. Number one, the first one, the easiest one for me to talk about, is making sure everything has enough water. Another tip is that if you are going to homestead and have a traditional 9-to-5 job, you might end up in a property that isn't really set up for homesteading like I did. It's got the land, but it certainly wasn't set up to be very awesome for this type of lifestyle. Case in point, this is just a hose that runs 400 feet, 300 feet that way, that connects to my main box. And it runs out here, goes out to the sprinkler. So I spend so much time moving this hose. And it's July right now. It is frequently above 90 degrees, even above 95 degrees. And so if stuff doesn't get watered for more than a couple hours every couple of days at the most, it starts to show. And it's not just a lawn for the sake of having a lawn. This is literally the food that our food eats. The pasture is literally the lifeblood of our whole operation except for our garden. The sheep come back here. Our rabbit, we put our one little rabbit that we have. We're going to get more, because if you know anything about rabbits, you can't do anything with one. But making sure that this pasture is green, is watered, it helps the sheep, it helps that rabbit, it helps our chickens. We eventually want to alternate back there. We want to draw a fence and have and alternate turkeys and hogs every other year. So the fence or the pasture is so important, and making sure it has water takes up so much of my time. My work gives me the freedom to work from home or come into the office, and so on the days that I am home, it is nice to have a break every couple hours, 2 or 3 times during my work day, to just get up and move the sprinkler. But at the same time, I don't want to be married to moving the sprinkler. I'm trying to figure out options for that, but right now that's what I've got. So moving water takes the most time for me. I just talked about moving water. The second thing that takes a ton of my time is moving sheep. Oh my gosh. So every week or so, they're in a different location. And so I've got a few different layers of backyard. We call it the first backyard, the second backyard, and the pasture. And I'm in the process of dividing my pasture even. But moving sheep on and off takes such a long time. And then on top of that, my front yard, I've got a great front yard. But oftentimes, every time that I've got sheep on there, I need to put electric fence around it so they don't just wander off into the street. And putting up electric fence might be my least favorite homesteading chore ever. It gets tangled. Running the extension cord out there to power it is a pain in the butt, but really just being tangled. It gets so tangled. And that takes a lot of time to move these animals. Making sure these animals have food and water. So sheep, really easy to make sure they have food. If I want to be nice, I give them some alfalfa to supplement them, but the grass, they'll eat grass. And these are Dorpers, so they'll eat a lot more than grass. They've actually eaten like entire sets of these trees when we've had to knock a few trees down. Within a day, bam, they've eaten them. So feeding the animals is not that hard, or feeding the sheep, I should say. And then the sheep's water, I've got a big dish out there. I refill it maybe once a week. I dump a bunch of apple cider vinegar in it, so it kind of keeps the bad bacteria from growing in there for a week. Chickens, making sure that the chickens have food. Right now we have our layers in here. Please excuse the mess. We're going through a little chicken coop refurbishment, making sure the rabbits have food. Luckily the chickens and the rabbits are more my wife's job, although when I'm out here I try to lend a hand with that. And then these are our roosters that yesterday we just clipped their wings so they can't fly over this fence because it's butcher season for our roosters. I talked about watering the pasture. Watering plants takes a heck of a long time too. Right now we have 7 4-foot by 8-foot planter beds, and those take a super long time to water. We also have kind of like a pumpkin / squash / watermelon, I guess you'd call it, our gourd patch. That takes a lot of time to water. Weeding all of that, oh my gosh, good night. If I spent 20 minutes a day weeding, that would only let me be caught up on weeds. I would never be done weeding if I weeded for 20 minutes a day. I need to get some mulch, which brings me to my next point, Saturday projects, man. I have not had a free Saturday ever since moving here. For example, last week I had a pile of sticks right here from all the trees that we've been knocking down, like the dangerous trees, the ones that make you scared when the wind blows. We had a pile of sticks here. No joke, I would guess it was 25 to 30 feet in diameter, as tall as 8 feet in the center of it. A lot of sticks. So I rented a chipper. Bam, bam. There's the big wood chip pile. I've got a smaller one. Am I pointing to it right? You can't really see it back there. But that took like half of a Saturday to chip all of that. And it's awesome to have the mulch for later, but like Saturday projects, they never end. I know my wife and I, we have young kids, and so with the kids, it's like, all right, like who's gonna watch the kids and who's gonna do chores? We just never are ahead. But I think I kind of knew that going into it, and I was excited for that, but it has gotten old. Like the novelty of working every Saturday has gotten old. So what are the tips? Like, how do you make this work for you? My first tip is I would say treat this like a part-time job, which if you come into this saying like, no, I want a homestead so it's not like a job, like the magic will be lost if I make it a job. The magic's gonna lose. Like, you'll get out of the honeymoon stage of homesteading before you know it. So treat it like a part-time job, and what I mean by that is set hours for yourself, or rather set goals for yourself. So don't go out on a Saturday and say, I'm just gonna work and work and work and work until I'm done. No, like go out there and say, I'm not gonna stop until the fence is put up. Or if that's too big of a project, say, I'm gonna go and dig these fence holes, or I'm just gonna lay 50 feet of the fence. Set goals for yourself, because it's really going to make it a success for you. Okay, another tip that I have is make homesteading work for you. And what I mean by that is actually figure out how to make some money from it, or at least save some money from it. So in our case, we keep an Excel or a Google Sheet that we monitor all of our purchases on, and we make sure, like, spoiler alert, we're in the red in every single category that we have. We're in the red in sheep, in garden, in chickens, in rabbits. Everything is in the red, but the hope is by keeping track of that, we're able to make better decisions and make it work for us one day. It's kind of like, homesteading would suck if I knew it was all just work with a little bit of reward. But knowing and seeing, okay, I only have like a couple $100 more to pay off on chickens, for example, till we have broken even on it. And so that'll be really cool when we've done that. So I recommend keeping a ledger. That'll help a lot. Okay, something else that I thought was super helpful for me was involving your friends and family. So what I mean by that is like a Saturday chore might sound like a chore to you because you've been doing chores every single Saturday for a very long time. But if you have friends or family that think your lifestyle is cool but don't want to do it, invite them over to hang out on a Saturday. And before you know it, now they're helping you put up a fence. They will think it's fun and novel, and your fence will be done twice as fast. My last tip is start slow, and I did not start slow. We moved in, and before we had even moved in here, I had already like put money down and reserved my first set of sheep, and we just jumped like right into this head first, and that was really stressful. And you know, at the end of the day, it's nice to have accomplished so much within the first year of being here, but it's caused way too much stress. It's just not worth it. Homesteading takes a lot of planning, so use that to your advantage by starting slow. Also, you'll run up expenses really quick, like I did. So just be careful, start slow. So my question to you guys is, those of you who have homesteaded and held a full-time job, what did I miss? What's the most stressful part for you? And what tips would you recommend? Leave them in the comments. I'd love to see it because that is my position right now, so I could use all the help I can get. But thanks for stopping by on this video. I'll see you on the next one. This is PJ with the High Mountain Homestead. See you later. Ugh. Stuff in the air. Ew, gross. Bugs.